Hi there, and welcome back to the channel. So, I made my video yesterday where I showed the Breadwinner in action with the GDS 18-watt Marshall circuit, and I liked it, and I think it sounds good, and it does a lot of cool stuff. But I still felt like the guitar had not found its proper place in my world yet. Now, what I started wanting the guitar to do, okay, I've got my Strat, which, you know, growls and roars, so I get, and it cleans up beautifully. It does like blues rock, you know, anything like that. It can just destroy. It can really do everything I want it to do, and it cleans up beautifully. But I want but I usually play that guitar in E flat, and I want a guitar live and just as a go-to in the studio that's tuned to standard and just gets me like a clean tone, because I have my humbuckers in my Les Paul Custom. I've got an 86 Les Paul Custom that I only would play out in certain places. Would never go gig in clubs anymore with it, but I'd play it at like a theater or something like that. A really good show, if I could get like an opening with somebody with a pretty big name, I would play it at something like that. But not, and then you still have to be careful, because when you play with people with big names and stuff, they totally usually like crowd the stage with their gear, and they have their own people running around doing their stuff, and your stuff can get knocked over, and it's like, oh well, you know, because you're not putting asses in seats, in other words, so you're just there, you know, trying to get some exposure, so your stuff is not watched after. So that one's probably retired for now, but I have my Flying V, which has humbuckers, so I've got like the nasty humbucker big Gibson tone when I want it, and my Strat can pretty much cover everything except it's an E flat. So I wanted I wanted one clean machine that was in standard tuning. And I've been on the other side of my musical spectrum of taste, I've been re-obsessing on Screedy Politi and Green Guard Side from Screedy Politi and Nick Hayward's solo material after Haircut 100, which I like Haircut 100 too. That record's a fun record, but I'm mainly focusing on his solo material. I should go back and listen to the Haircut record to see if there's more stuff on there that I missed, but I'm mainly focusing on his solo work, and this is the perfect kind of guitar for that, because it does clean really well. So I went home and started thinking about it, and I was thinking about the guitar was primarily made by an acoustic guitar company, and I'm assuming that the electronics in here are sort of similar to what was in their acoustic guitars, and I don't think that it's the best way to do rock and roll. If you're trying to plug directly in like I'm doing, because there's something about these electronics that I don't think my amps like that much. This amp is a almost Class A amp, and it doesn't even take pedals all that well. Like, you don't really need a distortion or overdrive pedal, because all you got to do is turn the amp up, you know, in full tube saturation on this baby. But you know, if you wanted some other kind of pedal or whatever, but I don't know. It doesn't sound perfect plug directly into that one, and I'm going to try that one. But I started thinking overnight, because of the electronics in this active electronic situation, it's like a guitar pedal inside the guitar. Now, if I was trying to make this the ultimate machine, I would have this pickguard. I would have a pickguard made like this that was cut for mini humbuckers or something, and I would just remove this entire situation, put that on, and play it like a Les Paul with no active electronics. You could also rebuild the active electronics, but I'm not really an active electronics guy. But what I decided to do, since it's a prototype and it's something different, and since I'm not an active electronics guy, it's cool to have it in your arsenal, because it's something different from what you're used to, and it creates unique sounds. Like while I was sitting here, I felt like I kind of like wrote a song. I think I've already forgotten it, but luckily I recorded it right there, so I'll be able to remember it. But I'm getting some remarkable tones right now, and the reason is that I started thinking about the electronics and the active electronics in here, and I was like, you know, one of the things you need with guitar pedals, if I remember correctly, and I'm not much of a guitar pedal guy, I can tell you all the guitar pedals I've owned. I owned a Little Big Muff, a Phase 90, a Phase 100. I've had a what do you call it? The big box one. Yeah, I've had a regular size Big Muff, the smaller one. I built 2 pedals, a fuzz. I was trying to do like a classic fuzz with germanium transistors, and it's definitely fuzzy. It's cool, but you know, not really. I don't need it. and then I built the Randy Rhoads pedal, which is the Distortion Plus. And that one's really nice, but just like super polite. That'd be a good one to use as a buffer. So I think that there's something about a buffer, going to another pedal, and it's somebody that knows this stuff better. I don't know anything about pedals really. I built a couple, but it was just like, you know, kind of like doing a paint by numbers. You get the kit and just, you know, solder it in, which is, you know, more advanced than some, but I can't say I understand the circuits or anything like that. But I do know what, you know, happens when you plug into this. There's some kind of magic going on between these two elements, the Carl Martin Headroom reverb pedal and the Fender Deluxe and the Ovation. And I was thinking about selling this pedal because I hadn't used it. Like I tried it and I was like, maybe I'll be a reverb guy, but I just don't need reverb with the 18 watt for sure. It just doesn't sound right with it. And with the Deluxe, it just sounds so much better plugged directly in with my Strat. There's something about this is like in the way of that magic Strat tone, like if you're trying to play a certain type of music and you just want like that real Strat tone, that real nasty Texas blues Strat tone. You know what I'm talking about if you know what I'm talking about. And you don't get it as well when it goes through this first. But this thing with the active electronics, something is cool. Something is right. Sorry, clear my throat. There's allergies from all this pollen going on. All right, so let's see what happens. I've got it in. There's two channels on this, and they're exactly the same circuit. You can just set them different. Like you can have one like where there's a lot of tone and a decent amount of reverb, and another one where there's just hardly any tone, and then like reverb at 12. So I'll start with the more reverb tone version. I'm plugged in. I'm in the neck pickup, plugged into number 1 on a Deluxe without reverb built in. There's no tank on this amp. These are, you see these less, but I think they sound, there's something about it that sounds amazing. I don't know why. Maybe because it's lacking the reverb circuit, so you get more ass in the channel 1 on the 12AX7. I don't know, because it's probably sharing a 12AX7 to do that reverb circuit, but I'm not sure. And it stays cleaner longer apparently. I've noticed that, but the breakup is really sweet on it. It's amazing. All right, so watch what happens now. We've heard this before. Those of you that are interested in these guitars, watch what happens when it goes into this reverb pedal, into this Deluxe, and this tone I'm getting. I'm going to go to about 3 here on the volume knob. They're getting in the way of proper chord voicing. So man, I don't know, that sounds beautiful to me. That sounds way better than it sounded yesterday. That sounded okay, but there's like this extra air on the tone that I hear that bugs me. Friend of the channel, Jay Graves, I think, said that it lacked clarity compared to the Les Paul Custom, and I agree. It's like there's something in the way, and somehow I think this pedal took care of it, like unity gain or something. I have no idea. Okay, now I'll go up to 5. Bridge pickup. I think the neck pick, there's something about this is like in the way of that magic strat tone, like if you're trying to play a certain type of music and you just want like that real strat tone, that real nasty Texas blues strat tone. You know what I'm talking about if you know what I'm talking about. And you don't get it as well when it goes through this first. But this thing with the active electronics, something is cool. Something is right. Sorry, clear my throat. There's allergies from all this pollen going on. All right, so let's see what happens. I've got it in. There's 2 channels on this, and they're exactly the same circuit. You can just set them different. Like you can have one like where there's a lot of tone and a decent amount of reverb, and another one where there's just hardly any tone, and then like reverb at 12. So I'll start with the more reverb tone version. I'm plugged in. I'm in the neck pickup, plugged into number 1 on a deluxe without reverb built in. There's no tank on this amp. These are, you see these less, but I think they sound. There's something about it that sounds amazing. I don't know why. Maybe because it's lacking the reverb circuit, so you get more ass in the channel 1 from the 12AX7. I don't know, because it's probably sharing a 12AX7 to do that reverb circuit, but I'm not sure. And it stays cleaner longer apparently. I've noticed that, but the breakup is really sweet on it. It's amazing. All right, so watch what happens now. We've heard this before. Those of you that are interested in these guitars, watch what happens when it goes into this reverb pedal, into this deluxe, and this tone I'm getting. I'm going to go to about 3 here on the volume knob. fingernails. They're getting in the way of proper chord voicing. So man, I don't know, that sounds beautiful to me. That sounds way better than it sounded yesterday. That sounded okay, but there's like this extra air on the tone that I hear that bugs me. Friend of the channel, Jay Graves, I think, said that it lacked clarity compared to the Les Paul Custom, and I agree. It's like there's something in the way, and somehow I think this pedal took care of it, like unity gain or something. I have no idea. Okay, now I'll go up to 5. Bridge pickup. I think the neck pickup sounds better because it's fuller. I do not like that out of phase tone. If you're trying to get like a fake strat quack, but not for this. Man, I'm really digging that. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try. I have no faith that it'll work with the 18 watt, but I'm going to give it a shot and see if there's any joy there, because that would be interesting. I get more power, but I'm starting to think there's some magic with these three things: Carl Martin, Headroom pedal, Fender Deluxe, David Cassidy Ovation, Breadwinner. Alright, so let me do this 18 watt. Alright, so I've got it plugged into the 18 watt, and I'll just tell you right away that it works. I'm just really excited about this because I really love this guitar because of its history. It means a lot to me personally. I know most people don't understand why I would be so into it, but you know, I lived in a complete fantasy world when I was a kid, mainly, you know, living on television. So if it happened on television, it was more interesting to me than what was happening in real life. You know, obviously I'm not like that anymore, thankfully, but you know, that's what you do sometimes when you're in certain situations. All right, so what happened that I really find fascinating is that I was trying to make the guitar, you know, be like a rock machine, like an all-purpose rock machine, like my Gibsons are, and my Strat is, and my Schecter Super Telly, which I've got to get that rewired. But I wanted to have a guitar that it could be. Now I'm starting to want this guitar to be my clean machine, like to play esoteric stuff, to play dreamy stuff like this latest thing. So I'm like really excited. I'll keep this in standard or whatever weird tuning I decide to, if I have a weird song or something. So this would be like the unusual guitar, because it's an unusual guitar, and I think it really works best as a clean machine. Like almost like, even though it looks all badass and everything, it's kind of a clean machine. That's where it excels. When you get the pickups too high, you get feedback when you try to get too close to the amp, and it's not nice, pleasing feedback like like Alnicos would give you, or your ceramic pickups that are not active, they're passive. Just they're magnets. Taking in the electronic magnetic transfer from the from the vibrations of the body and the strings, and it's making an electronic transfer that's happening. It's just millivolts, but the way it's amplified makes it loud and just right. And I think that trying to get natural distortion out of these is kind of a fool's errand. That's probably why Glen Campbell put mini humbuckers in, and that's what Ace Frehley did, and I think some other people. And if he did that, it would basically sound like a an SG or like a Les Paul Jr., because it doesn't have as much body and there's no maple on it like a Les Paul, it's different but very similar, and you'd have like a basic like Gibson machine. But I've already got that covered. I don't want to mess with it because it's a prototype, has personal history and all that. And I like this idea. Been playing these Nick Hayward songs, the Scritti Politti, and they played really clean. That was the era of like the Roland JC120 type thing. So they'd have like a Marshall JCM 800 for like their rock side, if they needed power, or like the stuff that had more of like a big rock tone. And then they would have like the Roland JC120 for that super clean, like crowded house tone. I don't know who else did that all through the 80s and 90s, but especially in the 80s, that was like the Roland with the chorus and all that. It's a very definitive tone. A lot of bands stayed in that. Cure, certain bands would have that kind of tone. Back in the day, Smiths, Johnny Marr had like a real clean, jangly, reverby tone. And I don't like reverb typically, and I was going to unload this thing just for what I got for it, a couple $100. And now I'm like, man, this thing is great. Got this pedal, got this cool guitar, and I'll have its own little setup, the next time I get a show, and I'm about to do a house party, reunite with with old bandmates from my original band, and that'll give me a chance to try it out, and I'll make videos and show you what happens. But okay, watch what happens with the Marshall. I'll go to the same position, go to 3. I don't have it cranked like I usually would. I have it on, let's see, it's like on 6. It's on 6. It's on the normal channel, which is the normal 12AX7 full power channel. The other one is more, a little more mild. But I feel like this channel gives me more, and I got the tone set right at noon, like at 5, if you're going from 0 to 10. And then here, I'm going to go to 3 on the dial. I'm in the neck pickup. Thank God I remember to do that. It doesn't sound as good in the bridge. And I'm not using this phase thing. Tone is on 10 if you have one of these. So 10 on the tone, both switches on the up position, and this means phase is off and neck is engaged, and the volume is on 3.